And I'm wondering about your schooling, each of y'all's when you were growing up. Um, I'm assuming that obviously this kind of technology wasn't around, and schools obviously have kind of like a set way of doing things, which you all are trying to break that mold a little bit. But I'm just curious to know a couple of your educational experiences growing up, how different it is, and how that's affected your line of thinking in terms of trying to reach these kids of today.
Well, I think, that's really interesting because I grew up in a small town in Idaho. There were 41 students in my graduating class.
Wow.
And it's the same, and they're pretty much the same 41 students that I started in kindergarten with. And so I think that those are the same, if that personalization piece became really important. And the teachers, we would always see the teachers, they're just part of the community. The same person as your math teacher would also be your Little League coach, or you'd see your English teacher at church. Like all of this is all together like that. And so I think that's where like this, I had such a personalized experience going through school that then my first job when I came to San Diego was a school of 3,200 students, and it just overwhelmed me. It's like, well, how can you bring 3,200 students here and get to know them and things like that? So the personalization part was always really important. And then we didn't have, it wasn't, I didn't have any homework. Like we didn't really assign homework at the school, and we didn't, all the writing was creative writing. We never really did any kind of literary analysis. We didn't have AP classes. I remember when I went to Pepperdine in my first year, I was in this honors thing, and somebody said, well, we all had AP classes, right? And I was sitting there like, I've never heard of an AP class. And so I had that experience, but then I did my PhD at Stanford. So even though that I still wouldn't have like what you consider like the rigorous traditional high school experience, just those personal connections and letting us explore other things, it turned out to prepare me. And so it really helps me question, everything that we do in the traditional schools, because I didn't do any of that and then still graduated with a doctorate from a top university. So it shows me there's more than one path to get to it.
That's fascinating. I'm assuming you want to bring that kind of small town mentality to this school then?
Yeah, yeah,
That's awesome.
definitely.
Community is a big part.
Community is a big part of it.
And what about you, Nicole, in terms of your background, in terms of maybe some of the
Yeah,
frustrations
so I mean, it's
and how
interesting that Ken talked about a personalized experience because I had a really highly personalized experience also. My high school I graduated with 60 girls. And it was a small Catholic. It was actually a boarding school. I was a day student, but so this group of girls lived together. They ate together. It was a very tight community. You really knew each other well. You knew your teachers. They lived on campus with you, and it was really personalized because you sat down for English class in your English or your English teacher's office with 10 or 12 other people, and you talked about whatever you were reading or. And they built the schedule around you. Okay, this group wants to take AP Bio. We did have AP. They want to take AP Bio. So let's build that class for them. So they really looked at, okay, what do these kids want to do, and let's make it happen for them. And so that was a really unique experience is what I realized because my three brothers couldn't go to this all-girls school, and so they went to a very traditional high school, and they did not have that experience at all. So for me, I think the contrast between my experience and my brother's experiences really highlighted for me that everyone should have something that rich and that personalized and that good.
Well, you all both lucked out because that is not the typical experience. It
No.
really is.
No, that's not at all.
That's
And
great.
the other thing that I realized is by not being bogged down every night with homework, I was able to pursue things I was interested in. Like I could write for the local paper. I could, whatever. Like I was really into sports. I could practice baseball or stuff like that. So just I could go deep in certain areas. And that was the same thing I noticed when I did teach that 3,200 students in school. We had some really successful students who were doing a lot of exciting things, and that is because they were able to go deep in something, and that's the other part that we want to be able to get to.
And I'm assuming, so that means that, how some schools, one teacher says, I'm going to assign like half hour of homework, and the other teacher, I'm going to assign a half hour of homework. And then in the end, the kid has like literally 4.5 hours of homework.
Right.
Is that kind of mentality you're not going to go toward then, I'm assuming?
No. I mean, I really, in a lot of our parent focus groups, one of the parents really they said they had an aha that when they saw how much homework that their kids were doing. They said, if my boss treated me like that, they'd say that's the worst boss in the world. I'd have to go to a full day of work, then have to come home and do another 4 or 5 hours. And they'd say then, not only that, then people say, that's the worst boss, and I'd end up being the worst father and the worst husband. And so it's really, I just don't think it's a humane way. And it's not, we say we have to prepare them, but really you're not preparing them. I mean, there aren't a lot of jobs where every day you have to, go to work and come home and do, 4 hours of work additionally.